I used to have to do these a lot with doing radio tours with country artists. So we'd be in.
You toured with country artists? Who?
Colton James, Brandon Hamilton, Bill Gentry.
Wow.
But you want to hear something funny?
I always want to hear something funny.
So in 2008, when I lived in Atlanta, there was an entity called the Georgia Country Music Association.
Okay.
It was a grassroots thing, not anything like affiliated with the. It might have been ancillary to the Georgia Music Hall of Fame. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I think, if anything, when Atlanta started to become like the hip hop hub of Southeast United States, there's probably a little marking of the territory, if you will.
Yeah.
So,
why not? Country had been there for a while.
well, yeah, it is what it is. So anyhow, they were having this. They had a running, probably decade of musician of the year, and I won in 2008. I was just like, what the fuck is this about?
You won Country Musician of the Year in Georgia.
In Georgia, and it was my friend Rob Tyler, God rest his soul. He played with me for a while. Rob played fiddle for David Allan Coe, and then he was in Lone Star after he played with us. Wonderful, talented guy. And I called him up because I was a little embarrassed about it. Not because I'm, because it's kind of like a popularity contest.
Yeah.
Break it down. But I called him up and I said, I don't know what to do about this because I don't want to be not gracious. Because Rob and I were, we'd talk and we were like-minded. Mm-hmm. And he was almost as funny as me, so it was a good time. And he said it. He put it in form. He said, and he was probably talking to me from somewhere in the United States on tour with Lone Star. He said, Mark, you're the best fucking rock guitar player I know. Why shouldn't you win Country Musician of the Year? And in the 2000s, I mean, when I got to be friends with Danny Chauncey, that's another funny story. So Danny was the lead guitar player for 38 Special after Jeff Carlisi.
Right.
Danny wrote Second Chance, Teacher, 4 or 5 of their hits that when they were still not a legacy band.
Yeah.
And he was with them up until probably right before COVID. He's retired.
We opened for that version of 38 Special up at Jack's, formerly Jackson Springfield.
Great dude.
Yep.
Danny's a great. And that's another funny story that Danny and I'll tell you about. But Danny and I were having a conversation one night in my dressing room, and I said in the 2000s, and I said, dude, if you were a new band right now, you'd be on country radio in the 2000s. So 38 Special, Hold On Loosely would have been on country radio were it released in 2005.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I've been in many a debate about their Southern rock roots.
It's legit.
It is legit.
Two drummers when they came out.
Right.
And they were, when you have a Van Zant in your band, how are you not at least graced with Southern rock royalty?
Yes.
It's like of Windsor if you're in Britain, you're royalty, even if you're a scum, right?
That's true.
Unless you're Andrew. But when I had known Danny for a year, and one night our manager called me, or one day, and said, he said the lead guitar player for 38 Special called and wants to know if he can get on stage and play with you at tonight's show. And I'm like, well, yeah.
How do I say no?
Yeah,
why would I say no?
So I get to the gig, and this venue was like a 5,000 seat big venue. It was called Wild Bill's in Atlanta, and Danny comes walking up to me and he goes, so what are we playing tonight? And I went, what do you mean? And he goes, didn't such and such call and say I wanted to jam with you? I'm like, are you fucking with me? I had no idea for a year that he was the guitar player for 38 Special.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and then we wound up doing a few shows with him, and he played a kidney bean pod. And Don Barnes.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I didn't know. So Don Barnes, when I was playing in that band, we didn't have any instruments on stage except the drums were live behind a
yeah.
So all my amps were in a booth. We're all in-ear monitors, flown PA system, and we get done with our set, and Danny and I had really never even talked gear. I didn't even really know he was a guitar player. He was just Danny Chauncey. He's my friend.
Wow.
And so I talked to him after the show because he absolutely nailed every freaking sound. And he was playing a one humbucker homemade Strat. Don Barnes still had his guitars and had those big ass giant PV Mace amps. Remember those things?
Yes, I
That's
do remember
that's
those,
the
yeah.
Leonard Skinner amp
Yep.
behind the scrims, and there wasn't anything on Danny's side of the stage. So I asked him, I'm like, "What are you using? Your amp's in an isolation box somewhere?" He goes, "No, it's a kidney bean." And he goes, "And my tech changes the pitch."
Oh my God. And battery powered at that.
I don't know, but I was mad. I was like, "You got to be shitting me." So his last tour before he retired, when I was still living in Virginia Beach, went back and hung with him. It was Foghat, 38 Cheap Trick, Leonard Skinner.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a pretty eclectic gathering.
What a lineup.
Right? So we went back after their set, and I'm hanging out, and I said, "Please tell me you've at least upgraded to a Kemper." And he says, he starts laughing just like that.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah, but you know what?" And I said, "What?" And he's just looking at me with a smile. I said, "Holy shit, you imported the Pod Sounds, didn't you?" He goes, "Yep."
Oh my gosh. The Pod was such a game changer, though, when it first came out, and I think people underestimated its abilities.
The
right?
sounds are still legit.
They're a great tone.
On some level, those things sound better
Yeah.
in certain aspects than the Helix.
Yeah, I mean, Helix is just much more difficult to work with. I think I enjoy the simplicity of the original Pod, you know?
Well, for sure, but the
Yeah.
A to D aspect of it, when
Yeah.
the transference of analog sound of digital, and it's not even like you're just hearkening back for the glory days. There's just, you plug the Pod kidney bean in, and
just
the
works.
shit sound good.
It just worked. Line 6, that was a tremendous improvement in sound. I think with Line 6, I've always been a
Now is line
big-
line 6 is Helix, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've just come out with the Stadium
Yeah,
version.
Billy got one last year, and so when they were sending them out, and I commented on it, I said, "Do they have a shitty cafe gig version instead of the Stadium?" And he said, "If you get a top 10 song, Mark, it changes everything."
Well, of course it does.
So start whenever you want to start.
Well, so speaking of, getting to playing with Billy Sheehan, let's go back to some of the origin story of
Okay.
Mark Dunn a little bit, and so where are you originally from? How do you find your way to, sort of out of that setting and into popular music, and obviously
Or
onto
not so
this-
popular music.
or not so popular music. We are musicians at heart, it comes from the mind. It sounds great there. But then you find yourself as a Georgia, Country Music Award winner.
Yeah, which is still bizarre.
So where'd
They're
you
not even
start
an
out?
entity anymore. But so I was born in Keflavik, Iceland. True story.
Wow, did not know that.
Youngest of 5 boys. My oldest brother was an adult when I was born, so you can imagine what kind of an oops I was. I make the joke about there's 2 things to do in Iceland, and the first one's drink vodka, and I'm a product of the second one. And then we came back. So my dad was military, and recently, in the last couple of years when my mom passed away, we were cleaning out the house, and I have an Icelandic birth certificate, as well as a Secretary of State or whatever, Department of State, and I have 3. So U.S.
Wow.
But I was born in Keflavik, not on the base in Reykjavik. So that's
Really?
yeah. So my Icelandic birth certificate has all the fruity mark, fruity done, and I'm like, oh crap. So, Chrissy and I want to go back, and I want to go back. I've not been back, but I'd be interested when I show them my passport if they say welcome home.
Wow.
So it's kind of interesting. But we came to Memphis. I have very little memories of Memphis. And then my dad retired because, again, I came along late, and grew up in Norfolk. And I guess we moved to Norfolk, and
You almost said it, Norfolk.
Norfolk is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, not those of us that lived there that weren't born there. But Norfolk.
And yeah, Portsmouth. I went and saw Chickenfoot, and Chad Smith kept saying Portsmouth. Isn't that 2 of the same thing? And so all my brothers played. There was just guitars lying around. There's a family picture before I was born with all 4 of them playing guitar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and but nobody ever took anything formal.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a thing for me. Like, there's just music, so there was no lessons to be taken or any of that. It wasn't even like I enjoyed it. I wanted to do it because my brothers did it.
Right.
That's natural. You got siblings?
I do have an older brother, and he had an acoustic guitar, which
Yeah.
he then didn't want to use, and that turned me onto it because I was like, well, of course, if my older brother had something, I wanted to use whatever of his,
Yeah.
ergo record collection, all the things.
100%.
But,
Yeah.
so that got me entered into playing guitar.
And my closest brother is 6 years older than I am.
Okay.
And so it's not like I had somebody that was a contemporary of age or where there was even healthy competition. It was just like I wanted to be what they were doing.
Right.
And so I started playing guitar, like just playing. It wasn't a thing. Literally was not a thing because it's like if you went outside and played with your friends, it was. I played guitar too, and I never looked at it as like anything special.
Yeah.
And my brothers used to tell me the guitars were in tune if the pegs were all in the same direction, or just typical brother stuff, I guess. But
Nice.
so I got a guitar like my own. I think probably when I was 7 or 8,
Okay.
and then my sister-in-law Liz and Dan gave me another one like around the same time frame because they were just cheap Navy Exchange
Oh, sure.
kind of guitars, and I think that one was a Gregory. I think. Anyway, and then I just liked songs. I would play Elvis tunes, Beatles tunes if I could figure them out. When everything is EA and B7 or AGD or. I didn't play an F chord forever.
Well, that's 4 fingers, technically. So we all have, all struggled with that.
You got a double
initially.
clutch on that high E
That's
string.
right. That's right.
But so I would sneak playing. My brother John is the closest one to me, and then there's Jimmy, who's the middle. And Jimmy is probably the best musician in the family, and he's also a radio personality down in Hampton Roads now.
Oh, wow.
But he
Okay.
plays he's a great bass player, great producer, great guitar player. Taught himself sax, kind of just like if you pick something up and get at it, you'll figure it out. And he was probably as a child who I was living vicariously through. I was looking up and him playing all these shows, and his one of his best friends and somebody that's like an uncle to me is Billy Batt. Billy Batt played in Black Oak, Arkansas with Sean Lane.
Wow.
Yes, Billy Batt on keyboards and fiddle, and I've recorded with Billy. And like I said, he's like an uncle. Just incredible musician out of Norfolk. And so none of the guitar stuff. I just thought bands and music were cool. My first concert was the Bee Gees on September 26, 1979. That was a big
Prime
one.
time for
The Bee Gees.
Yes.
Not 90s Bee Gees.
Right.
Not, the shame of disco Bee Gees, which I never understood anyway. But that was a watershed moment for me in that the spectacle of it all. Mm-hmm. And just, I still remember it like it was last week. So still, as far as how I came into being a guitar player, musician, just like for most millions of other kids, I never thought about it as somebody being better or anybody being better. Like I said, you just either did or you didn't.
Yeah.
Do you collect baseball cards? Is there a better baseball card collector? No, you just collect them or you don't, right?
Sure.
So I saw the live video when I was like 11 of So This Is Love from Van Halen. And so you're 11-year-old pubescent, awkward kid, and you see David Lee Roth,
yes.
and girls losing their mind and having a great time. And then Eddie, like I'd heard Van Halen before,
Right.
but I hadn't. That was my first visual, and to
and that makes
see it,
it's
yeah,
a
it was like,
watershed moment.
oh, dude, it was like, and it was before MTV even hit. So there was a local cable access, Channel 11, Cox Cable in Norfolk, Hampton Roads, and they would do a simulcast from 7 to 7:30 probably the summer before MTV kicked off.
Okay.
For the year, and they would do these simulcast videos. So they're essentially playing the song, but you sing, even if it was just a performance on a soundstage of them mock singing.
Sure.
There was a few of those out. There was a number of videos out before MTV came around. Actually,
yeah.
A lot of them. And so
Kiss was well known for doing a bit of that. So some of the videos that they produced were done on the soundstage.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Loverboy, Working for the Weekend.
Sure.
I mean, there was some concept videos out there, but most of the stuff was really kind of a commercial for the band to be seen, that a lot of them would use as video for commercial material for their tour.
Right.
So, but there was a lot of videos. But it's funny because when you think about how the 50s and the 60s and the 70s were, early 70s, a lot of those performances were real.
Yeah.
And they're playing. And so that video just happens to be part of a television show.
Yeah.
But they're playing.
Yeah.
And then into the 80s, they were just doing the singing along with us. But that video, so I would, I'd watch every freaking, night just to see if it would come on again. And lo and behold, there was another one for Unchained. And then hear about it later. So Fair Warning is my favorite Van Halen record.
Great album.
Yeah, it's just for me for a number of reasons. But that's when I became to know them.
Yeah.
And that's when I started realizing that I want to play like that guy.
So that kind of set you on a trajectory for your style.
100%.
Okay.
Like it was overnight. Like I went just deep into, I need to go back and listen to everything, learn the riffs, and it was a protracted approach. I did not know what I was doing, and nor did my brothers that could play. They didn't.
Yeah.
Who the hell knew what Eddie Van Halen was doing?
I think around that time too, he was still developing what his ultimate style was, and some of the techniques that he was doing were so groundbreaking, from a guitar perspective.
Yeah, and the tapping thing for me came pretty simple. I don't even know if it was one of my brothers that showed me, but I mean, in the scheme of things, that's pretty easy to do. But I also like their music.
Yeah.
Van Halen 1 there's not a hit on the record.
Yeah, this is true. Yes. Yeah.
Period. But that you could argue, why isn't that your favorite record? Because Fair Warning, like I said, is when I discovered him. Arguably, us guitar players argue that it's probably the Eddie solo album, and it's also got the coolest tones. And
yes.
It's just it's an incredible record. So I went on from there, and so like 11, and then in 10th grade or going into 9th grade. My mom took me to see Stevie Ray Vaughan open for Huey Lewis. So I got to see at Norfolk Scope. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that was like my third or fourth concert. And she had heard Pride and Joy. And I'm upstairs. My parents were pretty strict or tired or both because I was the youngest. So I had to, I was known in the neighborhood for like having to be home by 7 in the middle of the summertime. But while my other friends were out getting into trouble, I was just upstairs playing.
Yeah.
And the struggle was real. I don't need to tell you. I was dropping the needle on these albums on a crappy turntable.
Oh, Lord.
I had to figure out how to tune to the, because it wasn't even a half step down on the record.
Right.
Could have been whatever, depending upon the speed. But this is funny. I always got 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th pressings from the Navy Exchange. We didn't have a Tower Records or anything like that.
Right.
And so inevitably there's skips, scratches, just brand new, and also I had a crappy turntable. So I figured out if you put some weight on the stylus, that it would go through the bumps, right?
Yeah.
And my turntable was so crappy that what I did is I taped a bunch of coins together as a stand, just take it if you have like a piece of metal like that, and then I taped that to the top of the stylus. Well, not only did it go through the groove most of the time, but the turntable was so crappy that it would slow it down even further, which was a blessing. I'm like,
then
I just have to mitigate, or I have to learn it on a vector. So I'm 3 frets down, but I'm playing the same thing, and I just move it up to play it right. It was like the first accidental slowdown technology.
I love it, though. I
story.
love it.
True story. And I had that record player probably till I was 22.
Really?
Yeah, because, there was nothing that would slow stuff down, and 22 CDs are coming along, and, I was further along in my ability to decipher what was going on. But that's truly how it really was a springboard, you know. But Stevie Ray Vaughan, sorry, my ADD is strong. But that was I went.
All right, you're in good company.
I went and bought "Couldn't Stand the Weather" the next day. And
awesome album.
And I learned that record, except for "Stang Swing." I couldn't figure that out.
Really?
And then I saw him again in September of '85 at the Boathouse in Norfolk.
The Boathouse.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was an awesome show, and so I got to see him twice.
Now that was a much smaller venue.
2,600.
Yeah, and my first exposure to like Tool, I think, you know, Sea of Souls was a band out of Hampton Roads,
Good
and they were
friends of mine.
they were opening for Tool, I think, at the time, as a matter of fact, just as the local presence went. But the Boathouse was just a phenomenal place to go to.
Oh, I played the Boathouse. I had a band in the 90s called Waterworks. We released a record, had an Anheuser-Busch sponsorship. And the night OJ was on the interstate, that night, with the slow speed chase in the
You're playing a show?
at the Boathouse opening for Crash Test Dummies, and it was sold out.
Oh, wow.
And I guarantee, and half the crowd was there to see us for sure.
Yeah.
And just an interesting memory of that time, because like we had a hotel room across the street at the Omni. Remember that?
Okay. Yep.
And we're watching the slow speed chase on TV, and we're like, we've got to go.
Oh my gosh, we got a show to play.
Yeah, it was nuts, man. And so that was I've played the Boathouse a number of times. I got a cool Peter Frampton story from that too. But yeah, so the Waterworks. So I got into bands. You know, my actual first gig, a paid gig. My brother Jimmy, who's the DJ, he was on the morning show for FM 99 back then.
Okay.
And
Wow.
it was Jimmy and the Bull, Henry the Bull Del Toro, God rest his soul. And,
I do remember that show.
Yeah, so they used to do parody songs. Like they did a Chump for Jump or Puppy Livers for TV Dinners by ZZ Top. Is This Is It for If This Is It by Huey Lewis. Just funny stuff, Weird Al kind of stuff.
Right.
But played really well. Billy Batt, the guy from Black Oak, Arkansas. So my senior year in high school, Jimmy and the Bull would do appearances with a band. So my first ever paid performance was at the Virginia Beach Pavilion in January of '87. I was 17, and I played that gig. And we played those things, and it's actually on YouTube. Somebody found it and put it up on YouTube. Yeah,
No way.
I'll send it over to you. But
I had when we were being in the Navy in Norfolk during that period of time. That was like some of the weekend entertainment, was to go either down to the Hampton waterfront or go down to the Virginia Beach waterfront and see some of those Jimmy and the Bull. I think that's what it was, right? Shows that they used to have.
They used to have they'd go to places on Friday mornings and have just pop up broadcast shows and have the band play, and it was nuts.
Super interactive though. Like gave you something to do.
Well, and also Henry was getting these tapes of Howard Stern, because he was not national yet. So he had friends that were sending him tapes of Stern from New York. So he wasn't going to push the envelope quite like that. Yeah. But he got a lot of that kind of shock sensible material.
Sure.
Yeah. And he was a gold soul. He was a good guy. And another funny, interesting note is that the house I grew up in is diagonal across the street from the Del Toro's house, but Jimmy and Henry never hung out.
No way.
And I'm a weird guy with dates. They moved out into not a hotel, an apartment together on February 15th, 1984. And I know that date because it's when Van Halen was at the Coliseum that night.
Oh, wow.
And so Jimmy that's how he had gotten into FM 99.
Okay.
And was a kind of a side man, like a third guy, funny guy. You know what I mean? In that it was Rieger and the Bull at that point, and then it developed into Jimmy and the Bull.
Okay.
So that was my first show. That following summer, I got on the Spirit in Norfolk. I got that gig with a homemade parts guitar.
Holy smokes.
Yep. I copied the Van Halen guitar with a Hondo body and a Kramer neck that I pieced together.
Your own Frankenstein.
I drilled the Floyd Rose without measuring. What are you going to do?
Oh, wow.
I wired a DiMarzio Mega Drive pickup. I wired it directly to the volume pot. I don't know if it was correct, but it worked. And I had a crate amp, and I got a gig where we had to play everything from Girl from Ipanema to Separate Ways by Journey in one night.
Oh.
7 nights a week, sometimes with a dinner cruise on Friday and Saturday. So before I started Old Dominion, I was making $350-$400 a week in 1987 as a musician. Yeah, it kind of made my dad shake his head, like he was still a cop at Little Creek. He was a captain of the police at Little Creek.
Right.
And I was buying, I bought my first guitar, my first real guitar. My brother Jimmy had bought me a Fernandez in probably '84, so I bought the Kramer. I started getting into real amps, and that obsession has not slowed down.
No, we've seen your pedal demonstration videos of your practice room with
That's my studio. Does that even have all
12
my
or
gear?
16 heads on the bookshelf behind you. Yeah,
That's just 4 on that one.
okay.
But they're good. There are 4 good ones. There's other stuff elsewhere, but so that's about the obsession was the other moment for me. So I saw Eddie May 17th, '86 at 5150. I never saw the classic lineup.
Right.
But if I had to trade not having seen the classic lineup for the amount of time I had to interact with him, I'm ahead.
Yeah.
So I got to hang out with him quite a bit, but not as much as anybody would want to. But
I was gonna bring that up. So you mentioned Van Halen, and then you meet Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, and the first time was June of '88 at the Monsters of Rock in D.C.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not RFK.
Yeah.
Was it RFK?
It was RFK.
Yeah, it was RFK.
Yep. And so I was working for a store called Alpha Music, and there was an FM 99 contest. And so they gave away a Monsters of Rock Kramer, and I was the one. I was already going to go to the show. So the FM 99, put me and my best friend Woody in the limo with the winners of the contest. And we went to the Four Seasons Hotel in D.C. in the limo. We pull up behind 3 other limos, and we get out so I can go get all the passes and stuff. And the Scorpions were in the lobby at the Four Seasons. So we followed their limo motorcade all the way to RFK with police escort.
That was a crazy show. That monster.
Did you go to
Yeah,
that one?
I did.
Yeah.
I was in middle school.
Oh, yeah.
And a bunch of us. I don't remember exactly how we got there. Somebody's brother's friend, was driving up there, and but it was a school day.
Thursday, I think.
It was like a Thursday.
September. No, it was June. Might have been June 11th or June 12th.
It was really unusual, though, because I remember asking my parents if I could go, and there was definitely a no.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, that's just the answer that you get from home. Now you go to school and you find out who's going, and then you just tag along.
That's right.
That was 100% there. Back patch blazing, even
Oh,
though the
God,
warm weather.
so hot, though.
Yes.
It was so hot. And here's what's funny. So we go backstage, and for, the Van Halen meet and greet, I was so nervous, dude. I was like... because I'm 18 at that point.
Yeah.
I got posters of him on my wall, and I'm still living with my parents at that point. I am fanboy deluxe.
Yeah.
So I hand Woody the camera. I said, just start taking pictures when he comes in, and we all lined up with the winners, and I maintained remarkable level of cool, and there's some great pictures from that. I'm such a kid, and so after that though, it was interesting. Oh, funny story. So Eddie was the first one to leave the room. You could tell he just didn't like being a rock star, but he was nice. He was congenial. And so it was kind of a hang. So nobody was in a hurry to not hang out. And so we go out, and we're in the bowels of RFK. And so when we left, we're hanging, we're just kind of, George Lynch is walking around. Like, it's just, crap, this is great.
It was an amazing lineup.
Just
to say that.
And it was also, I'd also had been prepared by the NAMM show that January.
Yeah.
So I'd gone to my first NAMM show where I first met Billy Sheehan.
Is that L.A.?
In Anaheim.
Okay.
And so I'd seen a bunch of stars. I physically bumped into Jeff Beck at that NAMM show. So I was like, but this was Eddie. So, so we're leave and we're hanging out. And Alex is in this hopped up, like, golf cart, like maybe even like motor or engine, not motor.
Yeah.
And doing donuts. And he comes over and he slides like right next to me, and he just holds his hand up for a high five. And I'm like, is this really happening?
He seems, and still to this day, probably like a very true spirit kind of a guy that really enjoyed having, a rock band, being part of a rock band.
Yes.
Maybe more so than Eddie.
I think that Al is not on the spectrum. Eddie, at least on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. So the disparity in their persona is way different, but their talent level is not.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
You know? But so I was just freaking out over that. And then The funny part about that is when we were leaving the backstage, we were walking out, and we have our credentials and stuff on, and I realized that we were walking onto the stage. We were like 15 feet from all the guitars and the amp rack and everything. I stopped, and I'm like, we're gonna get tackled. So I just
Wrong turn.
We were coming out of the tunnel. So we just stood there and let him walk out right by us and started the show.
Oh,
it was awesome. Yeah, it was very cool.
That's a classic moment.
Yeah, it's a classic moment. So then the other guitar player that really made me like go holy crap was Eric Johnson, and I saw him in '90 the first time, or '89, and that was at the Boathouse, and I got backstage for that just by wanting to tech for the opening band.
Yeah,
which I didn't do shit. I just but that's pre-internet, and so it was me and Don Campbell, who was the original guitar player from Sea of Souls, and Bruce Kulick from Kiss. And so the three of us are just hanging out backstage, watching Eric as close as the wall there. And half the crowd was selling their gear the next day, and the other half was buying it, and I was in the buying half. It was that moment right there was like, this is different. And I'd seen Vi with Dave, and this was like, that was a whole different. I understood it, but I didn't understand it.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Oh, I think it does. I think a lot of people that look at EJ and when he plays, there's just this tremendous talent, but there's a depth of understanding of the instrument. Like they call it, you'll see a lot about the fretboard fluency, right? But for him, it's not even about fluency. It's about he's just connected to his fretboard. I mean, it's like a third appendage in his body. I mean, the way I look at it, it's seamless.
He looks at it like a piano.
Which is tremendously different for me because I don't know piano, right? So I can kind of relate the fretboard to the keyboard for sure, but he seems to have just another worldly kind of knowledge.
But it's interesting because he was truly a different sound, and I don't just mean the tones, but that piano aspect of it. When you play piano, your intervallic jumps are basically you're playing arpeggios and chords.
The arpeggios.
Very rarely do you hear a piano player run a pentatonic. It's not that they can't, but it's like that's an inherent trope on the electric guitar, and everybody gets stuck in it. So when he looks at it, and the way I was looking at how he was doing, I'm like, it's pentatonic, but it's like different, and of course his expressiveness and his tones.
And those groupings, the way that he does groupings, I mean, changed for a lot of us as players how we practiced, right? Now, we were aspiring to do...
Literally, the next day.
Yeah.
And, because, you think about how simple the pentatonic is.
Sure.
But when you're going to play two-note flurries, two-note per string flurries in groups of 5 and 6 and 7s.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, it's completely nuts. And that's and with intervallic jumps between strings, I know we're getting geeky on the guitar, guys, but it's one of those things. It's like that's when I really started buckling down.
Yeah,
and I knew that I knew that I had a long. When you're 21 or 22 and you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
Yeah,
I was like, you know what, I suck. I'm gonna really start getting at this.
So I'm sure you've never sucked. So that let's just make that a point of clarification.
You should have heard me last week.
Well, and so you're out there now, and you still you're a professional guitarist. I mean, you are
musician.
A musician. Yeah,
guitar.
And you're recording. You're recording with some of the names you've already mentioned, but currently, what are you involved in, and when should we expect to see more Mark Dunn music and music with other partners as well?
Yeah, well, so I've been in a when COVID hit, I started. This is kind of shameful to admit, but I'd never recorded at home before because I've always been in studios,
Right.
I would try every now and then, and it was like,
it's not the same. Just to be on the record, it's not the same. But the technology has made it much easier.
I should have, there's never any bug splatter on the rear view, right?
Yeah.
But I should have understood from a creative standpoint, just because I'm not an Abbey Road, that I should have still learned how to record at home. Because when I started doing it over COVID, I had all the time in the world. I was teaching online and some in person, and I just dove in, and so I started demoing the tracks that wound up on Top Gear. And having a ball learning how to record at home, actually. I probably invented an entirely new lexicon of profanity, but because I didn't, when you go on YouTube.
God, that sounds familiar.
Right?
Especially when you're doing your own thing at home, you know.
And when you go on YouTube, and which is super informative in a multitude of ways, but
yeah,
there's a certain level of whatever you're watching, they're also coming at you with information and stipulating that you already know some of the stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you're hearing Greek. So it was a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Which, it's not so much that anymore, but I would consider myself a cursory engineer. I could do it. Mm-hmm. I understand the flow, but, getting in the box and really, doing a mix and whatnot, I've not learned how to do yet, which is on my list of things to do, obviously, before I leave this earth. But so I learned how to do that, and I started playing acoustic gigs between Virginia Beach and up this way and out in Western Virginia, because COVID, the only thing you could go do was like to open air places. For a while, there was a little bit when it got draconian and everything was shut down. But like my first gig was at Brock's. Like Chrissy had been saying, you need to just start playing acoustic gigs. And
right.
So I'm not a singer. I'm a guitar player that can sing. So I finally just felt like I would quell her if I just said, okay, book one. And so she
give it a shot.
She called me. Well, I didn't think it was. I'm like, okay, book one.
Yeah.
15 minutes later, she's like, you're at Brock's on June 2nd.
How dare you would challenge her?
Right. So, and I said, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do a lot of things. I'm not playing Wagon Wheel. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not playing whatever, or Brown Eyed Girl. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I'll do it for a $500 tip, maybe. But,
yeah.
So that's when I started playing up in this neck of the woods. And it was really kind of cool because not only working on the studio and writing those songs for Top Gear, I was playing this electric or the acoustic guitar, and that's like a workout because I'm an idiot. I don't want to play it like an acoustic. I want to play it like an electric.
You make the statement, it's like taking off the weights.
Taking off your ankle weights.
Your ankle weights when you move from the acoustic to the electric. And, I've taken that to heart and taken lessons with you. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, let me try to do it on the acoustic. And, it's much more liberating, to take that and then move back to the electric, for sure. Yeah,
it's all,
Guitar geeking again, sorry.
Well, I mean, but there's a truth behind that because they're the same but not.
Yeah.
And, you don't lay yourself any more bare than trying to play a solo on an acoustic guitar unless you're Tommy Emmanuel or people that do it. You know?
Leo Kaki.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
And so that's I would tell you that, as we, anybody that plays music for a long time goes through growth periods and where they are able to do something that they weren't able to do even the month previous. And I would tell you that learning how to record was probably the first really jump up in playing again for me. And how you associate the two is by virtue of you're listening to yourself, you're introspective, you're like, no, that sucks.
Yeah.
And do it again. And then you come up with an idea that you can't play at the tempo, so you got to work it out.
Yeah.
Right. It's less meandering and more focused. Like it caused me to focus on getting better without even me thinking I was getting better. Does that make sense?
It does. It's kind of wild to hear you talk about growth periods, though, because I think every guitarist should hear a person of your stature, and I attribute that stature. You don't. I'm saying that
I appreciate
you've earned that. I think in that regard, but I think a lot of musicians should understand that there's plateaus. That we always reach, and then you have to fight through the plateau to get to that next stage, and that might mean totally kind of disconnecting from everything you've done historically. To your point about COVID, you're starting to record at home, not something you were doing regularly, and those are rabbit holes that you're now going down. You're just trying to get some good reverb sound.
I'd never recorded at home.
Right.
And I got ate up with it in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like a little. What was that little Fender Decca amp that they have with all the cool sounds in it? I had that in a closet with a microphone and just learning how to do the drums and
nothing will kill your creativity faster than being your own mixing engineer.
Oh God knows, yeah, you're
Because
right.
you just have to stop at every interval and make a change, adjust things, and then the tracking itself. But I think again, it's really important for all of us musicians to hear that we all go through those plateaus, and to hear that you go through those plateaus, and then you have imparted some of that wisdom on me as a student. But I'm thinking, man, that gives me hope. Right?
Yeah,
For those things I want to achieve.
But the level of improvement is subjective unto itself. And that,
Yeah.
I think
That's a good point.
I think what we have is, we just get stale. So, what inspires you, or what do you go, oh God, that's great, or,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily getting better or as a faster player, if that's your metric for better, but is, growing on any instrument and the ability to play anything, like
Yeah.
if you hear it and you can't play it, that's a self-introspective challenge. And that's what a lot of that was. And that's what a lot of stuff is on the Billy stuff too. But
So speak to that for a minute. So Billy Sheehan,
yeah,
you and Billy reconnect? And,
not reconnect. We
Okay.
never knew each other.
Okay.
But it's funny because, David Lee Roth started his Eat 'em and Smile tour at Hampton. I was at that show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and my brother Jimmy and the Bull, they broadcasted from the stage the whole week.
Oh,
in one
wow.
show. Yeah. So, Billy Sheehan, he's international, he's just,
Amazing.
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of words we can use, a lot of adjectives, but he's amazing.
Yeah, and so last year, this really I should predicate all this with, having met Dave Coots from Talk Show, which was the STP
Yeah.
without Weiland.
Take us back, yeah.
So, because it's all actually tethered,
Okay.
which is kind of interesting. So, Talk Show dropped a record in '97 when Weiland went into rehab jail after the third STP record. And I'm an STP fan.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
But
for sure.
I don't know that I'd bought a record yet because they were so on the radio when radio mattered back then.
It was pop. It felt
was
popish.
rock.
It was rock, but it felt popish because of the radio airplay was overdone a little bit.
And Plush is probably is an anomaly record for them, even though, or not Plush, but Core is an anomaly record for them, even though it's their first one.
That's right.
Because it's the heaviest and appealing to what was coming out of Seattle, maybe. Brendan O'Brien, I think, produced that.
Sounds about right.
Jason Flom from Atlantic, who had signed, Zebra. And I met Randy from Zebra back in the 90s because I used to play the Winborn, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd shows with the symphonies around the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool. And there's a funny story for that one too. But so I loved the Talk Show record. It's
Yeah.
an amazing album.
Right.
And Dave Coots is an amazing singer. And it didn't get a whole lot of push, but I got an advance copy because, it's from the radio station or whatever. So
Sure.
if I've listened to that album once, I've listened to it 10,000 times.
Yeah.
And so Foo Fighters played at Old Dominion at Foreman Field, and Talk Show was the opener. And my friend,
wow.
my good friend Mike Doyle, who also played in Sea of Souls in the last incarnation before they took their hiatus.
So this is, again, you're still around Norfolk
Yeah,
at this period
this is
of time.
97.
Yep.
Yeah. So we went. It was a $10 ticket, and we didn't even stay for Foo Fighters because after Talk Show did their set, I wasn't a hater.
Yeah.
But I'm listening to Big Me, and I'm like, yeah, that's it's kind of, what is that? It's not. Ugh.
I had the same reaction.
Yeah. So we go around because I have a mutual friend that knew Robert and Dean from L.A. So I just go by the bus. I'm never not networking, and so Robert comes around.
Note to all aspiring musicians: never stop networking.
That's right. It's not how good you can play. And so Robert came around, and I said, "Hey, man, I just great album, love this. I said, by the way, I'm friends with Jimbo, blah, blah, blah. Jimbo used to work in Norfolk and had moved out to L.A. and was running the Mesa Boogie retail store on Sunset.
Oh, wow.
And Robert and Dean used to work for or with him when they, so that's how he knew them.
Okay.
And I knew that Jimbo Head, that's his name, family down in Carolina, Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. Robert had, Jimbo's 57 Thunderbird had the engine crapped out on him, and Robert paid for it without Jimbo knowing. That's how they were good friends like that.
Yeah.
And I knew that. So I mentioned to him about it. I was pretty cool what you did with the Thunderbird. And he looked at me and he knew it was legit. And so then Dave walks around, and it was interesting to meet him. It was October 4th. It was their third show. And I'm weird with dates. So, lo and behold, they go on. I'm still a fan of the record. And for years, I'd driven around listening to that album going, whatever happened to Dave Coots? Just such a great singer.
Okay.
And so I guess 3 years ago online, there was this entity on Facebook that had put something up there sharing Dave Coots playing live. And I just commented on it. I said, I saw the talk show record as a hidden gem of the 90s. I got to see him open for Foo Fighters. I met Dave afterwards. He was just a really sweet guy with no ego.
Wow.
Blah, blah, blah. And then I get this inbox the next day from this other entity that's not Dave Coots. It's the Long Beach Leftovers. And, hey, Mark, I just wanted to tell you that was really nice what you said, blah, blah. I appreciate the kind words. And I'm like, is this Dave? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, dude.
Wow.
So I start fanboying him immediately. And we hit off. Now I'd categorize him as one of my best friends, actually.
That's awesome.
And so Trip, my drummer, not my drummer, but the drummer I play with, is also a huge fan of that record.
Okay.
And I go up to Trip one day. I said, guess who I'm talking to chatted with on the phone the other day? He goes, who? I said, Dave Coots. He goes,
wow.
Really? I said, yeah. And I think there might be an opportunity to work together. So we started recording. I sent Dave out. He had been recording songs as Dave Coots.
Yeah.
And putting them up on, just one at a time. And they're good. And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know that? They're not being released. Dave went on to have a family. He's got 3 adult kids now and has had another career doing stuff.
Still for the love of music, though.
It's when it's what you do, it's what you do.
Yeah.
And he is a prolific songwriter.
Yeah.
And so we started writing. And I'd finished Top Gear at that point, which was produced and recorded and mixed by Andrew Coleman, 3-time Grammy Award winner. And so I brought Andrew in, and I sent David out a recording starter kit from PreSonus. And, I started showing him how to do little things on FaceTime.
Wow.
Yeah, he's in Huntington Beach. So
technology, though,
right.
I mean, it almost shrinks the universe down to
100%.
manageable levels. Yeah.
And so he would send me an idea, or he would play it for me, and we're on FaceTime. I would play it in, that. I'd send him that. And so we just started writing songs that way. And so we've dropped a Hopium a couple months ago. And then
Great song.
Thank you. Phenomenal. And then Jane last week. We've got another one getting ready to come out, Soul Stealer. We had Alexa. That was the first one, which is kind of an outlier compared to the other ones. It's still a cool tune. It's different, and it's an interesting technological song.
How'd y'all come up with the name of the band?
Flat Earth Radio was one of Dave's ideas. We had another one called Citizen Free Radio, but
very cool.
There's someone that wants to use it. I actually have the URL, and I've offered it to them for free.
Wow. Yeah.
Because we didn't know. And it's like, let's let them have it. So Flat Earth Radio was just...
Flat Earth Radio is great.
Thank you. I think
Great
so.
name.
The name's only as good as the music anyway. But so because of... So I went out to L.A. and hung out and started doing podcasts on this because Dave's got a fan following in Australia and Europe. I mean, and his vocals are still
cool?
ridiculous.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of these guys have put the screws to Dean and Robert, too, when they interview him. It's like, I think the talk show was one of the best Stone Temple Pilots records.
Wow.
Yeah. They don't like hearing that for some reason. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't be proud of it. But anyway, so other interviews, other podcasts I did, there's the Nothing Shocking podcast. These guys in Indiana, and they're just great dudes. And so there's a singer named Joel Ellis that was a singer for the Cats in Boots, which was an LA band.
Okay.
And they were at the last kind of vestige of
The 80s period, yeah.
So you know what happened to them, and they were a good band.
Yeah.
And then he did a band called Heavy Bones with Gary Hoey and Frankie Banali, and that's a monster record.
Wow.
Yeah. And as it goes in the music business, I don't think anything ever happened with it, but not because the music wasn't great. So
That was a whole transition period for A&R.
but it was overnight
I mean,
though. It was brutal. The fact that a Heavy Bones record even exists is kind of amazing.
Yeah, they would just stop taking calls from, the 80s artists. And
Happened to Randy Jackson from Zebra. He had his own record deal, and like he was in the middle of it and then
gone overnight.
Yeah, like literally budgets stopped overnight. Happened to Kix from Maryland.
Yeah, and they're back on tour, if I'm not mistaken, or they're at least playing.
No, they did a final.
They did a final already? Okay.
Yeah.
Recently seen some stuff.
Brian lives in Nashville, and in
I
fact,
think he's got a podcast, though.
he might. He was at that thing I did last year.
Was
he
it
played,
really?
He played the second song. He played Mississippi Queen. So
Awesome song, by the way.
But
So Dave to Billy, somehow.
Well, yeah. So through Joel called me because he was looking to do some things again.
Okay.
And so we just, never met until he invited me to come out to this thing in Nashville, which is called a Rare Hair Jam. So Nashville has a burgeoning metal scene. By the way, I'm not a metal guitar player. I just happen to be, not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm diverse in a lot of different styles. So
No, but the point of Nashville and metal.
it's funny.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that.
Juxtaposition.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
And it's real.
Yeah.
So I talked to Tripp. I said to Tripp, I'm like, hey, and Joel had been like, hey, this Rare Hair thing, and Billy's going to play. Do you want to come? I'm like, yes. So I tell Tripp, guess who I'm talking to? Guess what the invite is? Do you want to go?
Now, was this fall of last year?
April.
April. So spring of 25.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So he's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, no, I'm not kidding you. So we go to Nashville.
That's awesome.
And it's Billy, and met Joel there. Martin Motnick from what's the band? Accept, bass player from Accept.
Yeah.
He's there. It's like all of these, like,
It's the old guard.
it's the old guard, yeah, and with a bunch of younger players.
New flavor.
Ron
The video
Keel.
can be found online of you performing.
There's a snippet of it.
There's a little bit of you.
I've gotten some.
your thing.
I've got full videos of them, but
Okay.
I'm not putting those out yet.
Well, I think it's more the fantasy that we all might have of being on that stage,
It was surreal,
and I think that's the feeling that we would all have.
and it was like one of those things. But because we're hanging out, I finished a gig with my friend David Hunter in Richmond on the night before. I got home at midnight, and my friend Curtis Boggs is a videographer. He did the video for Round. He shot the documentary that I did the soundtrack on about the race car. So he comes with me. I'm on the road at 2 a.m, 2 hours, not even asleep.
Yeah.
And drive there, get to Nashville, go to the 3rd and Lindsley, and we walk into the backstage area, which is its own little smaller venue. And it's just a great hang. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to try to get a nap because I'm wound up. And still, there's no rehearsal at all.
That's wild.
It's like a list of who's playing what songs in order, and it was run very well. And so then Billy, I go into the other dressing room and just hang out with Joel, and there's Billy sitting there. I'm like, oh God, I gotta get it together.
Yeah.
So and I just went, hey man, Mark, and he goes, yeah, I'm looking forward to playing with you. And I said, likewise. So I went out and told Tripp, I'm like, hey man, come on over. And our friend Pete came along, Pete Soder. I played a band with, wonderful guy, drummer, musician.
Is the Billy thing evolving into anything?
Yes.
At the moment?
Yes, so that's what I'm getting to, not to be wayward with my meandering.
No,
talk.
you're never wayward.
But so just meeting him was very cool. I took a picture of Tripp talking to him backstage, and then when he went up and did songs before us, and when it was time to go on stage, it was just like, here we go, and. Drummers have it the worst because of the ergonomics of drums, and I was more worried about Tripp. Not that he couldn't play; he's world class. But as soon as I heard him hit the kick drum, you know what I mean when somebody hits it assertively.
Yep.
And then I saw Billy smile, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be good.
The heartbeat's there now. Yeah.
And man, we wore it out.
That's awesome.
It was cool. And so afterwards, it was really precipitated by Billy being overtly gracious to me, not in the sense of like, hey man, nice job, but like pulled me aside. I pulled back to listen to what you were doing, dude. That was sick. Wow. I'm like, okay,
That's
thanks.
Billy Sheehan paying you a compliment.
Yeah, so if you ever see the picture that's a selfie of him and I, he had just told me that. And so Trip,
Huge smile on your face.
Trip has the same experience with him. And Trip's a pretty low-key dude, and especially considering he's a drummer. He's also a bass player. He's got a degree in jazz studies, but he's a monster rock player. And so we compared notes afterwards. And finally, about 3 weeks later, I'm like, let's see if he wants to do something. He seems really approachable because the next day at the convention, he was all, hey, what's up, bro, blah, blah, blah. And so we fashioned together an email and included the link to Top Gear and said, hey, we've been doing this with Dave. We know how to remote record. Would you be interested? And he responded in 10 minutes and said, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so he goes, what do you got? And I'm like, oh, crap. So we had those 3 tunes that are instrumentals that I just sent him those. And, we've done those 3. We've got 2 more that Trip and I are finishing the arranging on, if you will.
Okay.
And then probably 4 more behind that. And it's at the moment all instrumental. And Scott Bush is engineering and mixing, and he's done everything. He's got the studio down there in Nashville with Ray Luzier from Korn and David Lee Roth and Army of Anyone, just monster drummer. And Scott's done Winery Dogs, KXM with George Lynch and Doug Pinnick, and and he's loving it. And I'm one of those self-doubt guys. I don't like, I feel I have imposter syndrome a lot, especially.
You're in your head a little bit sometimes.
You got to be, because, the Billy Sheehan's played with verifiably the best guitar players that have ever lived.
Oh, yeah.
He declined a Van Halen offer to join 3 times.
Really?
3 times.
3 times.
Yeah, I didn't know that. When we were talking on the phone, it's just being able to talk to him. It's a funny side note. Trip and I are working on the music, and Scott and Billy call in about a question, and we're at Trip's house, and he lives in Suffolk, and we finished the conversation and hang up, and I'm getting back to what we're doing, and I stopped. I looked at him, I said, I don't care how long I live or how long we do this. I'm never going to get used to seeing Billy Sheehan calling me on my phone. It's so it's super fanboy still, but and Billy said he's down to do some shows.
Good.
And he's got another band he's doing right now called The Fell, which is the guitar player from Smash Mouth.
Okay.
But it's not Smash Mouth sounding. It's rock, and it's good stuff. So that's how that kind of came around. And it couldn't be any more just surreal still.
That's awesome.
And Billy's so gracious. I think really, I think he understands that we get it, because I was asking him, like, is it okay if I tell people?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
Oh, cool.
And he's like, okay, and so would you consider what it would take to do shows after this? He goes, absolutely. Yeah, let's do it. I'm like,
this is his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, the 16-year-old Mark is still there, but he's on stage with Billy now. What are you going to do? It's like, so that whole moment of reckoning, if it was all, the thousands of hours you spend, could have, really kind of just landed on stage in Nashville that night, in a proper set of circumstances. And so far it's working out pretty well. So
I would say, because you're on stage with some pretty popular people, some pretty famous names in the business on a regular basis.
Whether they're famous or not, they're just ridiculous players.
Great players. I mean, we can kind of sum them up that way. But you are on stage with a Fredericksburg native, Huntley.
Oh yeah.
And can you just tell us a brief little bit about that?
So I met Huntley about a year before I did The Voice, and I was at Brock's actually. I was playing, and he comes up, and he has a presence just by the way he looks, right? He's Nordic, It's like, even though I was born in Iceland, he looks the part.
Come to think of it, you both have a little resemblance.
The little Viking aspect. Yes. Huntley mentioned that the other day. He goes, "Yeah, we're both blonde hair, blue eyes." I said, "Dude, I was copperhead red when I was a kid."
That's funny.
So I don't watch any of the shows like that. I'm not a hater, but so and Huntley tried to book me. He was doing some agent work, and but I'd never really hung out with him after that. But he had seen me play a bunch of times, so he says. So but I will tell you that the day after his airing on The Voice, it was like all over social media. So I went and saw it, and I watched his performance when they all turned around at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's already won.
Oh, wow.
It's over.
Oh, his voice.
It's
yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Not even just it's not even in, you know, I don't care. I'm not disparaging anybody else on the show, but
There
that
was no
show's over.
competition.
That show's over. So
we can be biased in that, right?
yeah, but I mean, I had no dog in the fight.
Right, but it's just a fact.
It's just a fact. That show was over.
That's right.
So, so back in, I guess, October, Toby Fairchild, that plays drums for Keller Williams.
Yeah.
I've done some gigs with Toby. He's a wonderful drummer. I love Toby. He's a great player, great person. And I'm down at Virginia Beach for another show, and he's calling me going, I know you're probably booked, but there's Huntley needs a band, like for a show in Fresno and a show in Tampa. And I'm like, what about in between those two? 'Cause that's some that's some traveling.
Sure.
He's like, yeah, it's the last two for this thing. And I'm like, well, just give me details. Let me go do the show. So long story short, me, Toby, and then Percy Burt on bass, who Toby had worked with a bunch, and Huntley knew both of them. We rehearsed once in the studio on a Tuesday night for about an hour, and then got on the plane the next day and flew to Fresno. And we did this gig at a private club that was grand opening.
That's wild.
It is wild because I'd been to Fresno before, and I've always relegated it to being the Portsmouth of California. No offense to Portsmouth, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm like, a private club.
Wow.
And so it's us and Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it's like eyes wide shut light in this place. $3,500 a month to be a member.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was fun. We went up there and slayed it. It was great. I mean, crushed it and had a great time. And, you know, it's a bunch of celebrities there, and we did the thing, and then got on the plane, went to Tampa and did an outdoor gig there, and did Huntley's record is done.
Okay.
He declined the record deal when he won.
Wow.
Yeah, he wanted to do it on his own.
A little more control.
Yeah, but he took the dough. He earned the dough. He's
sure.
like, I'm not going to sign. So he's got real management, and the record's done. I was over there on Monday, I guess. What's today? Thursday?
Yeah.
Tuesday, and we were listening to the first 6 or 7 mixes. Sounds great. It's a juxtaposition for his vocal. It's very Americana,
Okay.
country-ish, but rock and soul. Like the dude he opens his mouth and it's like, okay, it's whatever you want to sing. We're good, you know? And so I look forward to that for him. Unfortunately, I wasn't in the fold to play on the album, but, you know.
You'll be on the road with him quite often throughout the year. This coming spring.
I think maybe.
Yeah, okay,
You know,
okay.
there's a lot of things.
Stars have to align too. Your schedule, his schedule. Things.
And, you know, obviously, you know, if you're going to do a national tour, you know, that's a whole different animal than me really worrying about schedule. For no offense to I love my work, my solo acoustic gigs,
sure.
but I mean, there is that, you know.
Yep.
So I think they're going to drop, the record will be done being mixed in next month, March. And the coming out party for it, I hate to say CD release party because that just sounds so.
Well, that dates you, by the way, because of CD.
It's ridiculous, but they're going to do the Nashville like a coming out kind of thing, and
right.
Then, you know, I mentioned to him the other day. I went to dinner at this place in Culpeper the other night called Ferlazzo 1938. It's a restaurant and a venue.
Oh yeah. Okay, I've heard of Ferlazzo. Yeah.
Yeah, and I said to
Ferlazzo.
him, this would be a place for you to do a local, like,
Release gig or party.
or a
maybe.
listening party.
Listening party, yeah.
And then maybe drop a band set.
There you go.
know? And so we'll probably do something like that local. But, you know, he's been talking with about getting on some tours with some big ones.
Nice.
So we'll see.
Good deal. Well, Mark Dunn, we are so blessed to have you here today. Thank you for the time and the energy.
My
I know
pleasure,
that
man.
maybe we need to do a part 2 because there sound like a lot of other stories.
Well, when the record
maybe
comes
that
out
aren't
with
even radio ready, but you know.
Yeah, I can't write my memoirs because I've got children.
Understood. Well, thank you for being here today, sir.
My pleasure, man.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Yeah. just keeps going.
He's a beast.
Listen to this shit, though. Listen to it. If we like fall apart, I was thinking it was gonna be a fade.
He's in the groove. Don't stop the man. And that's the way it's going to be published? Nice.